Manchester United are interested in buying Leverkusen's defender Piero Hincapié, links with a £50 million move for Semenyo. United are having internal discussions about Liam Delap. Mount could take 6 months out to try to fix himself. A reunion with David De Gea. Where's that story coming from? Mainoo contract update and a contract for one of our bright young stars, plus a list of striker targets is reducing with some updates around some of our possible targets. All of this plus more in today's video as we run through all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video and let's jump straight into it. So I'm going to leave the striker talk until the end and go through some of the other updates as well. But there's been a loads of news, as always, regarding the striker situation, but some other kind of reports that I wanted to run through with you first. So, Manchester United are interested in buying Leverkusen defender Piero Hincapié's situation and future plans. He has a release clause of £42 million. Now, that came from a Spanish outlet via Sport, who are actually quite a decent source. The reason that's come out there is because apparently Real Madrid are interested. There's links with Liverpool, possibly as well. Fantastic player, really, really good. Really good player, in fact. I mean, statistically stands out like a sore thumb in most metrics that you would kind of want. Good age as well, can fill in a couple of different positions, can play. He's predominantly left-footed, so he's generally a left-sided centre-back. 24 years old. Outstanding stats if you want somebody that's, progressive passing, progressive carries. Yeah, it's a very, very impressive player is what I would say. And for £42 million, that would be, I think is a big chunk of our budget to spend on a defender. Do we need a defender that desperately when we've got, issues with the forwards and the striker situation? But, can play in a couple of different positions, play left wing back, left back, and also mainly as a left-sided centre-back as well. Really, really interesting option. Yeah, one to kind of keep an eye on. Give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. I think that's that would be a really interesting option. My only concern is I think maybe we're getting linked as a way to get more interest from other clubs, possibly, or and do we have the money available to go and spend like £40 million on a defender? Is it the top priority is what I'm saying when it comes to allocating our budgets and stuff? But I wouldn't be dead against it. Would be a really, really good player to kind of bring in. But give us your thoughts in the comments below. Now, The Athletic have done a really good piece, actually, or they've done some really good articles recently, and we've got updates coming up from David Ornstein, Laurie Whitwell in a second. But regarding Matheus Cunha, Manchester United have also shown interest in Matheus Cunha in the past, but the player really wants Champions League football, so that could be a little bit of a kick between the legs regarding the Cunha situation, especially if there's going to be other teams competing for him, which undoubtedly there will be, because his release clause is around £60 million from Wolves as well. And if it comes to it, if he's got the choice between coming to United and maybe, I don't know, a Chelsea or a Liverpool or a top team that kind of gets into the Champions League football, that might be the deciding factor for some players this summer. So we need to prepare ourselves for that sort of pain. If we ourselves do not qualify for the Champions League, we're just still up in the air until we obviously know what's going on with the Europa League. But that's one to kind of keep an eye on. That could be a bit of a blow. But then on the flip side, do we really have the £60 million to go and buy Cunha in the first place? I'm not so sure if the reports are being believed around, the budget and all of these kind of things. But I think he would be an interesting option to kind of bring in. But yeah, we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that one. Now, someone who might be a little bit more realistic is Semenyo. So all of Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester United are surveying Antoine Semenyo's progress as the three clubs seek to sign a wide forward this summer. Semenyo's expected wages would be nowhere near that high, but a key factor might be that Bournemouth would expect well in excess of £50 million. And that came from Miguel Delaney from The Independent, who is actually a good kind of journalist, not a bullshit kind of a merchant as well, suggesting that Liverpool, Arsenal and United are interested in Semenyo, but Bournemouth would want more than £50 million. And that kind of concerns me because, looking at his kind of data and stuff, looks really kind of good in terms of what we're missing. Progressive carries, take-ons. Amram keeps going on about wants players 1v1, and Semenyo's very good at that. Has the work rate as well when you look at his tackles, blocks, clearances, and all of that kind of stuff. So he's a player that works hard. The one thing that worries me about that, though, is in the top 93 percentile for shots. But he's only got 7 goals this season, so he is one that takes a lot of shots without a lot of return, and that's one thing that really frustrates me, and I know some of you watching as well, regarding Alejandro Garnacho, where he's just constantly shooting with very little return, and that's the one kind of thing that a question mark I would have around Semenyo is his shot-to-goal ratio is actually not very good. 7 goals, 4 assists this season, but for someone that's in the top 93% of his shots, suggests that he takes a lot of shot, but doesn't score very many from those shots, which is exactly what we're getting with Garnacho. We want somebody with a bit more upfront than that, somebody that actually not doing that, in my opinion, anyway. So that would be my concern with Semenyo, and the price, obviously, more than £50 million. When you're talking Cunha money, or if you're linked with, Roger Fernandez, going to be way cheaper. I like the idea of Trincao as well, going to be way cheaper than that. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of these, but does have the Premier League experience as well. Need to keep an eye on it. Give us your thoughts though. On that in the comments below. It'll be interesting to hear your opinion regarding Semenyo. Now, Ekram Connor's linked us with more players again. This must be about I'm genuinely not exaggerating. I reckon it's about 100 players. I reckon he's linked us with in the last few months. And again, I do not know the credibility, but he's widely reported and it has a very large following. So it's a bit of a weird one. Personally, I'm taking him with a pinch of salt at the moment because there's that many names being thrown around by him. But anyway, Manchester United are closely monitoring Felix Nmecha. Alongside United, other Premier League clubs, including Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea and Aston Villa, are also interested in the 24-year-old Dortmund talent. Now, that is a name that apparently Jason Wilcox likes, but the problem is he's had injury issues for the last couple of seasons, and I don't think we're in a position, especially with some of the players that we've already got, Mount and Shaw. There's an update on Mount, which I'm going to run through in a second. Are we in a position where we can take a risk on a midfielder that has injury concerns? Obviously, he was at City before when Jason Wilcox was there as well, so that's why the kind of ties are there. I don't think we'll take the risk unless he comes back and proves this kind of fitness. I think it would be a big risk to take personally, Mecha, with his injury record. But we are definitely interested in a midfielder. That's been confirmed yesterday by Laurie Whitwell, and the Muppeteers were also saying the same thing as well, that we are looking at midfielders, but the names are a little bit. There's not that much credibility around a name yet for the midfield position. I would say, we'll keep an eye on it for you. All right, but give us your thoughts on Mecha in the kind of comments. No doubt in his quality. I think he's a quality player, but the injury record is a massive concern. Now, Manchester United are seriously considering making a move to bring David De Gea back to Old Trafford in the summer transfer window. According to reports, the Spaniard has made 30 appearances in all competitions for the Viola, and now Spanish publication Fichajes claim that Man United are seriously considering his return to Old Trafford. Now, that would be really interesting. It's a good talking point, I suppose, for bringing De Gea back. If it wasn't coming from Fichajes, it was one of the worst kind of transfer outlets around, but they always get those stories always get picked up by the mainstream media, or reported around by other kind of media outlets and stuff like that as well. And I don't know the reason why. It creates an interesting talking point though. I mean, to be fair, maybe that's the model that they're going after. Let's put some stories out that are going to create a little bit of debate between fans, but I've never found them to be accurate at all. I think they're one of the least credible sources out there personally. But the question is, would you bring De Gea back? I mean, they say never go back, don't they, as well? But, I think we do miss De Gea. I think he saved, he was our best player for 3 out of 5 last 5 seasons, when he before he was very harshly treated with his exit, in my opinion, as well. The fact that we were negotiating a new contract with him on a reduced wage that he was happy to take, and then all of a sudden, when the literally when the contract was on the table, they pulled it and said, no, off you go, mate. We're going to spend, 40 million on Andre Onana instead. Do you know what I mean? Was I don't like the treatment of De Gea, especially with what he'd done for us as a club beforehand, winning multiple player of the seasons. But would I bring him back? Yeah, probably. I might be in the minority there, but give us your thoughts in the comments. But sadly, it came from a really, really bullshitty transfer kind of place. So I would say take that with a big pinch of salt for now, although it does create an interesting talking point. So I'm sure you'll get involved in the comments below. Mason Mount will not leave Manchester United this summer. Man United will be focusing on keeping him fit because they think he is a great fit for Amorim's setup. Furthermore, no club will offer United the level of money to produce a profit. Now, that came from David Ornstein. So for those out there in the comments that have been suggesting that maybe we should look to sell Mason Mount, I agree. I think we should look to sell Mason Mount. But from David Ornstein, nope, not leaving anywhere. Not only because they think he's going to be a good fit, and I would agree with that as well. I do think he's going to be a good fit for the team and the system. It's just he never stays fit. So he might be a good fit, but he's not ever fit. And also, no team's going to pay the sort of money for us to not make a massive financial loss on him as well. Plus, he's on about 250 grand a week. I think that's reduced a little bit now with the 25% reduction with non-Champions League money. So I'm around 200, I would say, a week, Mason Mount. And, who's going to pay him those sort of wages with his kind of risk and the 30, I think it's 30 million pounds we'll need to get just to break even from a PSR perspective as well. So I can't see that either. But the more interesting story regarding Mason Mount came from United Scout, where they were saying there have been discussions on potentially sending Mason Mount to a private clinic in Switzerland regarding his reoccurrence of injuries to help him limit them. If Manchester United choose this option, he would be out for around 6 months. Now, that came from United Scout, who have been quite decent when it comes to like injury news and behind-the-scenes stuff at United, saying that if they choose that, he could be out for 6 months. So I don't know whether they're thinking about that if he has a reoccurrence of his injury, because obviously he's back now, came off the bench against Forest on Tuesday. So, like, in order to... I get where the club would be coming from. You need to fix the problem. And if you can fix Mason Mount, then fair dues. But, is there a guarantee that's going to work? And 6 months out again for Mount, that's a long time. Why did they make that decision when he was out now injured? Because he's been out for effectively nearly 3 months. So you could have sent him off and then he would have been out for this season and then potentially back at the start of next season. To do it kind of now would be a bit bizarre, but, it is what it is. It is what it is when it comes to Mount. We can't sell him. Not going to sell him. See him as a fit for the team, but if he can't stay fit, what do you do? Maybe that is the solution. Send him away somewhere, try and fix him, but again, there's still no guarantee that he'll come back and be fit. Do you know what I mean? Just an absolute nightmare scenario, isn't it? The Mount, everything about that transfer has just been a complete disaster, in my opinion. It's up there, and I don't blame the player. I think the player profile, and that's I like Mason Mount as a player. I think he's a really good player, does fit the kind of system and stuff. But when you kind of analyse it, we didn't need that position strengthening in the first place. So we didn't need to spend that £50 million on Mason Mount that summer, in my opinion. And then the fact that he's been consistently injured has just been a complete disaster. Been a complete disaster signing, hasn't it, the Mount one? But give us your thoughts on that. 6 months to go away, try and fix himself, heal himself, do whatever in Switzerland, or do we just keep yo-yoing with him when he's in and out, injured, fit again for a handful of appearances, injured again? Like, what do we do with the Mount situation? Give us your opinions on that in the comments, because I'd be interested to hear what you have to say regarding it. Now, Kobbie Mainoo remains committed to Manchester United and is open to signing a new contract to remain among head coach Ruben Amorim options for the long term, despite growing reports involving Europe's elite. So that came from Gimme Sports, suggesting that Kobbie Mainoo still is kind of wanting to sign his new contract. There is a few kind of murmurings that might be getting a little bit closer. There's some kind of online chat regarding maybe 100 grand plus a week contract, so nowhere near the 200 grand contracts that were already debunked by Laurie Whitwell. But yeah, so, that's kind of positive for me. I think that he remains committed to Manchester United, opening to signing a new deal. They're just obviously working on the structure of that contract, or still doing the finalizing the deal, basically. And now he's not the only one signing a new contract. So Ibrahimov, fantastic young player, really, really exciting prospect coming from the youth. So signed his first professional contract at Manchester United. That's good news. Obviously, we've had Bentito Menteto signing a new 4-year deal recently as well. He's seen as a very kind of promising player, potentially one that could be integrated in the first team towards the end of the season. But I think it would depend on obviously, how our form is and Europa League and all that kind of stuff as well. He posted the following on his Instagram saying, "Happy to sign my first professional contract at Man United. Nothing changes. The hard work goes on." I like that sort of mentality and attitude as well. But yeah, seen as a very, very promising young player. I actually really rate him as well. I think he's definitely one to keep an eye on from the youth team as a potential future first teamer anyway. I think he's really, really talented. So congratulations to Ibrahimov, and well deserved as well, because I think he's put in some fantastic performances for the under 18s and the 21s this season. So, but give us your opinions on that in the comments. Now let's go through the striker news. So David Ornstein had the following to say. So he's doing a live Q&A session yesterday on The Athletic, where I was asked around Victor Osimhen. He said there seems to be a consensus among Premier League clubs that Victor Osimhen's most likely destination is Saudi Arabia, and that's always been the kind of my opinion regarding Osimhen, is the wages are the big problem. And if you factor in the fact that Saudi Arabia will offer more wages than United can in any stretch of the imagination as well, that has always been the concern regarding the Osimhen kind of deal. So according to David Ornstein, who's one of the best, if not the best journalist around at the moment, there's a consensus among Premier League clubs that Victor Osimhen's most likely destination is Saudi Arabia. And if you factor in when Ornstein said before that the likes of Gyökeres and Osimhen to United are very unlikely, although he refused to kind of entirely rule it out, because he did say never in football, but at the moment it looks unlikely. That could be, it is what it is. That's the kind of issue with Osimhen, isn't it? It's the wages. And especially if you're competing with the Saudi Pro League, who he nearly went to before he went to Galatasaray as well. There's clearly interest there. And that would be the kind of biggest concern is if Osimhen wants to go somewhere for his salary and financially, then obviously Saudi Arabia offer the contract. That's going to be, the big win for him. Or does he want to go to Europe and stay in the kind of, stay in the limelight and play in the kind of in Champions League, stuff like that as well? We need to kind of wait and see, but yeah, it doesn't look good in terms of that for Osimhen. However, Laurie Whitwell, who's another good source for United News, says I've not been steered away from Victor Osimhen in a way we're not going to go for him. So that leads me to believe there is some consideration around what could be done. So that was an interview that he did on the Stretford Paddock, suggesting that when he's been asked, when he's asking his insiders and kind of people at United regarding Osimhen, they've not been kind of given like a no. So again, I do think it's one that we're exploring, but whether it's likely or not, I highly doubt because of the wages. But, let's keep an eye on it. But the more likely striker is Liam Delap. Now, on Liam Delap, David Ornstein said, I expect him to move with Chelsea and Manchester United among his many suitors. Of course, Chelsea are going to be interested. There is serious interest from Manchester United for Liam Delap. That came from Laurie Whitwell as well. So again, two of the top sources, or tier one sources regarding United news, linking us with, again, Liam Delap, but I do think he's the most credible striker that we're linked with at the moment. The United have made internal discussions regarding Liam Delap in recent weeks, and looks like there's definitely ground on the stories that have been put out there recently, and he's high on the shortlist, being heavily influenced by Wilcox. A possibility that I'm hearing is even if Ipswich get relegated, United may not pay the £40 million release clause and propose a structural deal in instalments. A lot will depend on whether they get Champions League or not. So that came from Sully Talks, who's been very good recently regarding inside information around United and transfer news and injury updates and stuff as well. So definitely one that I'm paying attention to at the moment. Again, linking us with Delap, also suggesting maybe we would try to structure the deal in some kind of way to obviously help us out financially, but also a lot could depend on Champions League as well. And again, that's going to be a big factor, because if Chelsea are interested in him and they do get Champions League, they're currently fourth at the moment, so they're in the Champions League positions, and they've got more money than us and can move quicker in the market and stuff. Do you know what I mean? That's a kind of another potential question marks regarding Delap. But will his relationship with, you know, Wilcox play a factor in it? We'll need to kind of wait and see. But I think the most likely target, although the most highly kind of linked target at the moment, is Liam Delap. And just on that, The Athletic, though, we're saying several Premier League clubs are watching Delap. Chelsea have so far shown the most interest, with Manchester United also looking at him as a potential summer signing. Jason Wilcock, United's technical director, knows Delap well, having been City's academy director when he joined the club. So Athletic also again suggesting maybe Chelsea have shown the most interest, but would our relationship with Wilcox hand us the kind of key if we're competing, or are Chelsea going to do it again and just steal another transfer from under our noses because we're, you know, slow, or we don't have the funds, or whatever the kind of issue is where they can move for transfer deals quite quickly and we can't. But give us your thoughts on Liam Delap. Now, Manchester United now appear to have dropped off the list of a realistic destination for Benjamin Sesko. United are also not one of the clubs who have presented serious interest to sign Jean-Philippe Mateta, again from The Athletic. Sesko was one, I did say in yesterday's video when I did like a list of striker targets, it seemed a little bit lazy, that one. There's not that much credibility in it. There has been before. He's been a player that we've been interested in before, but recently, you know, I don't think there's been that much kind of credibility regarding Sesko. The Mateta one, there was quite a few kind of reports around it, but The Athletic saying United are also not one of the clubs who have presented serious interest in Mateta. So whether that interest was just kind of tentative, or whether he was just, you know, a name being thrown around by media, or agent talks as well. He's out of contract soon, so maybe he's looking for a new contract, trying to generate interest, who knows. But yeah, another two strikers potentially off the list. However, Bild, are a good German outlet, saying that Manchester United, Arsenal and Liverpool are all hot for Frankfurt's Hugo Ekitike. He will cost 80 million euros plus this summer, and PSG have a 20% sell-on clause as well. So that kind of, you know, about 68 million pounds, which is what the fee that's being reported for Ekitike. So he is one that's still potentially on the list. So I did a list yesterday regarding the strikers that we're more heavily linked with, and we can scratch a few of those off coming from today's news. Obviously, that might change. They might get a link this afternoon saying that Osimhen wants to come by Romano, or, you know, so that it can kind of change. But at the moment, Osimhen looks unlikely now because of the Saudi interest from David Ornstein. Gyökeres links with Arsenal. Again, he doesn't necessarily want to come, according to the reports, because of his desire to play Champions League football and that stuff. Sesko, I never felt we were really kind of massively linked with anyway, but he was a name that always gets thrown around by some outlets, although they're not the most credible. Ekitike I would keep on the list. Samu Agihawa is one that we have been linked with in the past, not so much recently, but I would still keep him on the potential list. Mateta, we've just kind of mentioned, doesn't seem like that interest is genuine. Liam Delap I would put on there, although the recent reports are maybe Chelsea might be looking for him as well. They can obviously move quicker and have more money than us to spend. Vlahovic, you know, has been linked in the past, but again, I don't necessarily think is a viable option. And Jonathan David still remains one, although there's not been that many updates on Jonathan David. So you can see already we've gone from a big list of strikers, and in 24 hours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them can effectively be boxed off. But that could change tomorrow. That could change this afternoon. That could have changed already by the time you're watching this video. That's the kind of nature of transfer news and transfer talk, is it's always going to be up and down. 1 minute we're going to be linked with this player, next day no, and then the next day yes, and that's just the kind of nature of the beast, isn't it, when it comes to transfer news and transfer talk. So I will try to bring you as much as I can, and also tell you where it's from and the credibility and stuff like that as well. So make sure you get involved and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. Let me know what you think about all today's news, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.